Good morning or afternoon.
Okay, one sec. I think I don't have my sound on on my computer. I'm pretty sure we're live in Zoom now too, which is awesome. So we'll just have to see. There we go. Okay, awesome. So exciting. Okay, live on YouTube. Yeah, I guess it is morning for you, isn't it? I need to just, okay, wait a sec. Okay, volume on that. There we go. Oh, so sorry, just okay. I'm so excited that you are jumping on the podcast again and that I get to chat with you about intuition. It's definitely been a really, really hot topic in my free community that I have. A lot of people right now are so interested in intuitive development, and I love that. Oh, where am I here? One sec. There we go.
Yes, I think it's like it's a topic that is such a great place for people to be able to expand from. And I really see it as like a foundation, honestly, to be able to build on so much more from there.
I love that. So do you want to kind of introduce yourself, let everyone know who you are, what you are all about, and what yeah.
Yeah, first of all, I want to say you look so beautiful, Bailey. I love the red on you. Like, it's just so cute.
Thank you. It's not usually a color I wear, but I felt bold today, so I'm embracing that.
I love that. Yeah, red isn't the color that I usually wear either, but like that is really, really pretty. Um, yeah, hi you guys. So my name is Karla Myra, and I am a psychic medium. I do psychic readings. I also help people tune into their gifts and connect with a lot of the magic that is within you that is also like out in like the universe. It's really like this combination that I see it. I know a lot of people perceive it to be like, oh, it's all outside, but it all also is inside. And so it's like, to me, it's all a big ball of one, honestly. So I've been doing readings for a while now, and I do all sorts of readings, and it's just it's really fun, and I love doing this, and I love connecting people to their spirit guides as well. So I just love all things in this world, in this realm, and in this world. Honestly, there's so much good in this world. So
I totally feel that. And as someone who has received a reading from you before, I can just attest to how powerful and impactful they are. They are so beautiful. I know we've talked about this before, but the reading that I got from you, the past lives reading, just came at like such an important part in my life. And it was such a light being able to go back and like look on those that what came through as I was going through something really big and kind of scary. So, yes, if you are someone who has thought about or is thinking about or feeling that pull to like having a reading, definitely check Karla out because they are beautiful. Just so much love and compassion and like within the write up and everything too. The way it was worded is just so beautiful. So I love you.
Yeah, I love that. Thank you so much.
But yes, also Karla has a podcast herself, which is amazing. I also love her podcast. It is so filled with like every episode is filled with like such great information, but like it's also bite sized. Like you can really digest. It's easy to digest and easy to understand, especially for people who are beginners in this world. So also definitely recommend that. I will definitely link everything down below in the description box on YouTube as well as on where you listen to your podcast just as audio. So you'll be able to have access to all of that as well. And I'm so excited to dive into this with you. I recently kind of did an episode myself a couple weeks ago on kind of like sabotaging my intuition. I realized I was really like standing in my own way. but I'm really excited for you to kind of talk on it and expand on what intuition is and diving into it with you. So if you don't mind, would you be able to talk to us about what intuition is exactly?
Yeah, so I like to simplify things first of all and make it really easy. And so with the podcast, I feel like I do that as well. So I really appreciate your comments, like straight to the point, because I just don't believe that things need to be like overly complicated. Um, so intuition really is this like internal guidance system, and you're able to receive information and be guided through it and receive like nudges and all these like, ahas, and just so much comes through. And what's really cool, and I think one of the reasons that people struggle with it though, is because the information doesn't always come like logically, and we may doubt ourselves or be like, that doesn't make sense, or you know what I mean? And so I want you guys to think of your intuition as this guidance system where information and guidance does come through for you. You are receiving it that way, but it may not always make sense logically. And that's where our human minds might be like, I don't know.
Yes, I love that. I love that. Oh, I got like chills. So that's good because it a lot of the times it doesn't make sense and it can be so random and you're just like, wait,
Yeah.
what? And
Yeah.
like, yeah, I love that. Like having to kind of disconnect your mind from from it when you are like in being aware of that as you are moving through development of your intuition and stuff and
Mhm.
understanding that, logic isn't always going to be right. And as humans, we just don't always know the answers. Like we actually are not as smart as we think we are half the time. And you kind of have to let go of that.
For sure.
So
Yeah.
you have to understand, okay, maybe there are sources and energies out there that are smarter than me and they are
Yeah.
like here to help guide you through life and accepting that your logic doesn't always
Mhm.
know what's best.
Mhm. Yeah.
So
That's a good point.
I talked a little bit in my last episode about myself like sabotaging my intuition, but why would you say people can feel so disconnected from their intuition sometimes, especially in like today's day and age?
Yeah. First of all, I love that you prefaced it that way because everyone can have different reasons as to why they feel disconnected. So I'm gonna share a couple of like things, but I for sure make sure that you guys are also being self-aware, realizing personally what might be disconnecting you. So a couple of reasons that I have is that people may feel disconnected from their intuition simply because they're very like analytical or in like the logical realm, and they only trust what they see, what they can touch. They only trust like science and data. And it's just like, that's the world, that's their reality, right? People live in a spectrum of like, some people are very much like that. And some people are like, oh, everything is real. All the conspiracies are real. You know what I mean? Like, and so there's such different extremes. And so when someone is all the way on one end and they don't believe, they might not believe in receiving guidance, which is funny though, because talking about like science and data, a lot of science proves that there's like energy in so much of that, right? Like there's more and more
Yes.
studies on all of that. So
Yes, I love that. Yes, it's so true. There is this partnership that is developing, and like you see it happening more strongly
mhm,
between like science and spirituality and these
yeah,
overlaps and things like coming together and being proven now by science as being real and happening regardless of if you see it happening. And I love that. I love that you pointed that
yes,
out because that's the kind of thing that gives me chills because before I got into this kind of reiki and all of that, I very much was on that spectrum of very analytical, and it actually I yeah, and a lot of it had to do with my upbringing and just being
mhm,
in a very,
yeah,
atheist kind of household where if you couldn't see it, it wasn't real
yeah,
and all that. So it's been nice for me to have that and see that connection between the science and the spiritual for sure.
yes, yes, that is really fun to like look into, especially when they do all these experiments of your thoughts, how it affects water or how it affects plants. I fucking love plants. Oh, sorry, I don't know if I can curse, but like
Oh
I
yeah,
love
100%. Go ahead.
I love like I love plants and the green in nature, but it's so funny because I don't really own plants. And I'm like the type of person, like I wouldn't be able to stand too long out hiking and I'd be like, oh my gosh, like a bug, but I love like I still love it, you know what I mean? And so um or I remember there was this video going around of a lady who was like near a tree branch, and she was like, touch
You
me,
can,
and then like
yeah,
all
the
of that kind of
giving it
stuff.
consent or being like, you can touch me, like giving the treat. Yeah, there's so many videos right now, like going around TikTok and Instagram and
Yeah.
everything. And you see them, and like people are giving consent to the trees to like touch them. I keep forgetting about that. But now when I go outside next time, I'm going to do that with my tree, who
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm really bonded with this tree. I'm like a love me some nature, and it's right. I can see it every day. I connect with it every day. I'm gonna
I
ask it
love
to touch me
that.
later.
Yeah, I love that. That's so exciting. So we see that more. And so, but I still think like if someone is very much like opposed to that, that still like everyone can put blinders up for anything, even you have data and proof and things like that. But so one of the reasons that people may not feel connected to their intuition or even believe that they're intuitive is because they are too much in like that analytical world. They may not even want to see or believe in the studies that are being put out there and experiences of other people. And so, one thing to ask yourself, first of all, I feel like if you're listening to Bailey's podcast or similar podcasts, this may not necessarily be you, but maybe it could be you if you're starting on your journey and you're like, okay, what's going on? So, I would definitely encourage you to see, okay, where are you on that spectrum? Why do you have that hesitation? Where is it coming from? Like Bailey said, her upbringing, was it your upbringing too? Is there like another reason? And really like dive in and see what all comes through for you when you ask those questions. And another reason that some people may feel disconnected to their intuition is because they feel disconnected to trusting themselves. Like they don't trust themselves. And when you can't trust yourself, you can't basically you don't trust like that you are making the right choices for yourself. And if you don't trust yourself, you don't trust the ideas that are coming through. And like an example that I want to share, because this really like just I don't know, this always stuck with me, and I think about this all the time whenever I'm talking about things like this, is I remember years ago i was um I was at work, and we our main floor was being remodeled like section by section, and so this time my section was going to be worked on, so we were brought down like 2 floors down, smaller space, and it was like dark, and it was just like I think I was the only one there at that time, and it was already like late in the afternoon, and so the whole vibe was a little bit dark and gloomy. But then I got this thought that, oh, by the way, I want to make sure that you guys also understand that intuition doesn't always have to be like this big, like, oh my gosh, this is the guidance and it's going to change your life forever or type of thing. Like it can come in so many small ways. And, but so anyways, there I was. And then I got this sudden idea was like, of creating spiritual journals. And I remember thinking, oh yeah, that's so cool. That'd be so great. And then like 2 minutes later, I was like, yeah, I don't know. I don't even know where I'd start, but I'd have to research. Like, maybe it's not for me. And I started like pushing that away. But then either that same time, like maybe 5 or 10 minutes later, or the next day, I was like, no, hold up, Karla. Like, why are you thinking that? Why are you pushing this away? You clearly had this idea that came through. So excited. I love writing. I love journaling. And so everything just felt so perfect. But immediately I was like already pushing that away. And like, me not trusting myself that I could even find the research, or like how long would it take me, doubting myself and all of that is what was pushing that away. But it's so funny though, because like 3 or 4 years later I put out my first journal, and but that's because I let it like stay with me instead of pushing it away. But if you guys are receiving guidance and information and you notice you're quickly pushing it away because you don't trust yourself to be able to act on steps that your guidance your inner guidance is sharing with you, or the inspiration, and then you don't trust yourself to make the steps to make those things happen or make whatever changes happen, that could be another reason that you don't even feel connected to your intuition. You're like literally creating this sort of barrier or the separation, because the more you don't allow yourself to trust these nudges, the easier it becomes to just always push it away, always like push it away and be like, okay, well, whatever, or like, maybe that's not for me, and things like that. So, which I think is kind of sad, honestly. And that's why, like, I'm really excited that we are having this conversation, because I know a lot of people receive so much goodness and they get all these guidance and messages, but then they don't trust themselves. Or even simple things, when people are out on dates, like I've heard stories, they get this nudge, like, oh my gosh, this isn't good. Like, I should step away or whatever. But then they go against that intuitive message, that guidance. And then they realize later, like, yeah, I should have listened. So those are like really different examples, but examples that I think are easy to understand. And I think especially the one with like dating, I think we've all been in situations, even if it's not dating or with other people or friends or whatever, where we're like, I don't know about this, but we like disregard it. So
Oh, yeah, especially, like, talking about friends, like, even when you're with a group of friends and you're kind of like something's happening, like, everyone's doing something, but you
mhm,
feel like in your gut, you're like, no, this isn't right." Yet they're like, "No, no, it's fine, it's fine." And even that's another way that we, like, lose that connection of trust in ourselves, is when we give our power away
yeah,
to other people and allow them to start making decisions for us. So our intuition can come through and be like with those gut feelings and everything, and be like, "Yo, no, 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 you got to stop what you're
yeah,
doing. This isn't good. This isn't good." But we don't listen. We don't lean into that and take heed of the message. Instead, we let other people make decisions for us. And
yeah,
that's one of the worst things. Yeah, I love that you brought that up, because self-trust is such a huge part of, like, anything, like,
yeah,
with your intuition, intuitive development, with healing, with recovery work. It's so crucial to really begin to build that up. And so many of us have this lack of trust in ourselves. So many of us seek that validation outside of ourselves, and we don't think that we have the answers, or we think we might
yeah,
get a nudge, and then we have to ask someone else for, like, validation or reassurance. And that person, if they don't, like, align with it, then they're going to say, "Oh no, that's a stupid idea," or "What are you talking about? Like, that would never happen," or whatever, right? And then you just
yeah.
dismiss it. So yeah, I love that you brought that.
Yeah, that's very true. It's easy, especially if we don't have that strong foundation of self-trust, to let other people make choices for us or influence us. And yeah, that can be very interesting.
Yeah, that's how we end up so far out of alignment and unfulfilled in life and exhausted and burnt out and making awful choices, because we're not making those decisions for ourselves. And when you do lean into intuition, you are able then to make more, like, soulfully aligned choices, make better choices for you and your
Mm.
life, and therefore live more fulfilled and, like happier.
And one
That's
thing I
very
want to,
important.
yeah, and one thing I want to add to this is that when we let others make choices for us, oftentimes it can be from wanting to be accepted, especially if the whole group is doing it, or we're like, oh, I want them to think like I'm cool, or I want them, whatever. And so there's like, as humans, we are social creatures. We thrive. It's good for us, I think, very in a healthy way, to be a part of community, but it can also get to an extreme where we may want to depend on it too much. And so we make choices that we know aren't in the best alignment for us. And so when we are working on self trust and working on connecting with our intuition, that can go against the grain. That can mean, like, okay, you may have to walk this path alone for a while. You may have to do this by yourself instead of going with the crowd. And that can be scary for some people, because it really takes strength to say, no, I'm going to stick to this. And I don't care if I'm doing it alone. And I don't care if I lose um a friend or two or a group of friends if I know that this is right for me. And that's something also to be aware of. Notice when your fear of rejection or your fear of losing friends, of losing connections is getting in the way of you trusting yourself and of you committing to yourself and listening to your intuition and taking that action, because it's not always easy. I know, especially when we hear spirituality or intuition, it can sound so like fun and cute and things like that. But when you really are practicing things, it's not easy, and it can be challenging and it can be difficult to make different choices, especially if it goes against the grain of how you've been living your life. So know that this may be a challenge for some of you, and some of you may have to really dive deep into, okay, am I maybe ignoring my intuition just because I want to fit in, or just because I want to, I want them to still accept me, or XYZ, fill in the blank. That's really, really important to look at too. And I feel like during my high school years, I was such a freaking I was like that weird loner girl. And so I spent so much time having to just like be in my own energy and like still show up. And so honestly, looking at it, I think it's one of the things that has made it where I'm like, okay, I'm just gonna do this. Like, I don't care if people still think I'm like the weird person. Like, I've already suffered so much through that, and it's just like push, but it does take guts. And so anyways, I really wanted to share that as well. So you guys keep that in mind.
That was
um
beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. That was a really good share, and I'm glad you shared that.
um and then another way that I wanted to share as to why people might feel disconnected to their intuition is because their ego might be too strong or in control in the way. And I know that there's a couple different ways that people define ego. I'm going to share it from, so I'm certified in emotional empowerment, in the way that the teacher simplified ego for us. I love it. It's so easy, and it's really just think of your ego as a part of you that wants to protect you, right? But it may not always make the right decisions, or it might be painful for you to continue being protected by the ego. And so, but I want you guys to really think of I want you guys to think of your ego in that way. Like, your ego may, going back to like the whole example of like social example in community, your ego may be that part of you that is like, well, no, don't do that. Like, don't be that weirdo. You're gonna be like rejected. You're gonna be looked on as like an outcast. And there's that fear or the anxiety, like, oh my gosh, yeah, if I do this, like, what if XYZ? And so your ego can come in trying to protect you and be like, no, don't listen to that. Because what if you do listen to that inner guidance, but then you fail? And then you're going to be a failure. And then you're going to think, like, why did I even try? I'm not even, I should have never tried in the first place. I should have known that XYZ. And so fear can sometimes be so strong that it's so much easier to just dismiss and not want to take part of whatever is coming up. So that is something else to also consider. Like, fear can be such a big part of why people feel disconnected to their intuition, and it can show up in so many ways. So it really goes back a lot to like the self-trust. Like, yes, there's the fear and there's all of these thoughts that are coming up, but as you do build on that self-trust, and what helps you build that self-trust is to take action, even if the result isn't what you hoped for or you liked. But it's trusting.
Yes. Yes. Sorry. It's
Okay.
taking that action, but like also removing yourself from expectation so that you're giving yourself space to
Mm,
celebrate even like those little successes. So like regardless of if it goes like doesn't go exactly as you planned, like you're still making moves towards that goal or whatever it is that you're trying to like gain, like
yeah.
whatever it is you're doing, that you need that self-trust. And yeah, you need to like take action but also remove expectation and like that kind of attachment to the outcome, and just stay in the present. So then you're opening the door up to being able to celebrate more and
Mhm.
be in your success more, and then less more prone to trusting yourself as you continue on. I love that.
I loved your excitement. I'm like, yes.
I love self-trust stuff. I love talking on it. I love teaching on
Yeah.
it. Just because it was such like a huge thing that I had to heal, like myself, is self-love and my like self-trust before I
Mhm.
could even start doing any of this other kind of work, because you can't like navigate through the other pieces without that level of non-attachment, non-judgment, compassion, self-understanding, and like grace that's needed to allow these dark parts to like show up, and allow that fear to be present and that anxiety to come in, and not let it drive you or like
Yeah.
control you, right?
Yeah. It is definitely a big, big, big piece of the puzzle. Even for like psychic readings, I had to just trust in myself that I was receiving what I needed to receive and just put it out there and trust not only myself, but like um that there's more than just me partaking in these readings and trusting in that energy as well. So, but I needed that self-trust to even like get started and commit to it. And that's a big, big thing. Like for, I'm sure for your Reiki as well, right? Like you needed the trust to be able to show up and do those sessions for your clients and
Oh
continue.
yeah, yeah. Not just like, I feel, you can have trust in the universe, or say, at least put it out there, like be telling yourself that you're trusting in the Reiki
Yeah.
energy or the universe, source, whatever it is. But if you actually lack that level of self-trust in like in yourself as the practitioner, as the facilitator, as the medium, then you're actually subconsciously not trusting in the universe either. You're not
Mhm.
trusting what's coming through you, and
Yeah.
what then is coming through the universe. So you do really have to build up that self-trust. And even if you're telling yourself that you trust the universe and I trust the universe, but you realize things aren't really working out, then there probably is that disconnect at that subconscious level, which a
Yeah.
lot of the times is because of our ego, or we're very much on that ego frequency, and the ego is running the show, and keeping us in that level of sameness, right?
Mhm. Yeah, and so it like the ego, the lack of self-trust, or just being too firm and like saying like, I'm like logical, I only trust what I see it. Those are all different ways that may impact that may be the reason why you feel so disconnected. But like, what I mentioned earlier, it's also like these are really some top 3 things that I wanted to share, but also make sure like, you dive into your own personal story and where you are in your own journey and see what else comes up for you.
Like even going as far, like I went, like at least for myself, I went as far as like my diet, like in lifestyle habits, like
Yeah.
those kind of things can also have a very big impact on our connection to our intuition and to the universe and everything as well. So it is
Mhm.
definitely, I love that you shared these three. They are really big ones. And I think that when you are starting out in this kind of game of developing your intuition, that they are really big ones that people do like struggle with. And I love that. But there are, like you said, there are many different ways and reasons why
Yeah.
you might feel that disconnect, and to definitely take the time to dive deeper and gain that self-awareness in your own journey to kind
Mhm.
of uncover what may be going on.
Mhm. I am with that also, there was sorry, I'm trying to remember. There was like one thing you said that really made me think of this other part. Like, oh yeah, so like your diet and habits like that, that also is so big because it affects your energy, and making sure that you are caring for your energy, clearing your energy, making your energy feel as good as you can feel is also such a big, like if your energy is muddled up and you're not caring for it, that is another big reason that you may not feel connected. And there's so many things within energy that can affect your energy. So many things within energy that can affect your energy. And for me, one of the big things was also watching what I ate. I noticed that certain foods, oh my goodness, my energy, like my body would literally start shutting down and I would struggle to keep my eyes open to stay awake. And when I'm like that, I don't feel good at all. The last thing I want to do is like, do any readings or like I just and in that moment, I feel like my body is just trying to survive. So it's so focused, just okay, what's physically happening, that I can't even think about my intuition or even like be open to receiving like more of that guidance and expanding from there. So for sure, there are so many things you guys want to like look at, and you can take it so deep, honestly. You could do like what's the that exercise when you like it's like starts with a bubble in the middle and then like you make other bubbles out of it and then
Yeah, I don't even know what it's called, but it makes me think it's like I do it all the time for like content mapping, but that's like not what like you're not content mapping yourself. But yes, like
yeah.
you start with the one and you like go out. Oh God, I can't remember what that's called, but it takes
But
me
I
back.
think you guys get the picture. You start with like
Yeah.
the circle, or I make mine into little clouds, and then the middle, and then you like go from there, and then from those you can like make more, and so like you can go so deep in that way. So there's a lot of things that you guys can find out,
Yeah.
like through those type of exercises. Mhm.
So we talked about how you can be disconnected, but how can we then, if we are disconnected or we are just starting out in this kind of journey and wanting to connect deeper, how can we go about doing that? Like, what tips do you have for people?
Yeah, so I know we've talked about self-trust, but I really want to expand on that in a couple of ways. So one of them, okay, so we've talked about beginning to trust yourself, right? Um, and as you begin to trust yourself, it just makes it so much easier to trust in the idea of trusting others, and also trust that you can also and also trust in the idea of like the universe and your spirit guides and your intuition. And we already like dove into that, but so for example, a couple of ways that you can start trusting yourself is uh, some really simple sounding ways, but in practicality, it really takes some dedication. And the first one, and one of them is dedication. How can you dedicate um dedication and like commitment? I feel like I'm kind of thinking of them in the same way, but like when I think commitment, like how can you commit to yourself? And I know that I really struggled with this in certain areas of my life. I would be like, okay, I want to do this, this, and this. And then like the week would go by and I would just be like, oh, I don't really want to, or like, I don't know, it's already so late, or whatever it may be. And so I wasn't committing to my own word. But then I would commit so much more easily when people would be like, hey, can we do this, or whatever it may be. And it really just started to hit me that yeah, why am I committing to other responsibilities that I have with other people, but when I tell myself I'm going to do something for myself, like I'm not committing to it. And believe it or not, there is that can affect you in a very unconscious way, because you are telling yourself one thing and then you're not doing it. So how do you expect to trust yourself? And I noticed that when I wasn't doing things that I told myself I would do, there would be also like a layer of guilt. And it would also lean into, okay, I feel a little bit guilty that I didn't do that. But at the same time, it was showing me that I couldn't even trust myself to keep my word to myself. So when you do keep commitments to yourself, that's going to help you guys build that self trust. You're telling yourself, hey, I am here for you. We're going to do this. And that does build self trust. So make sure that as you guys are, if you guys are making commitments, if you're planning out your schedule, your to do list, commit to yourself, complete those, do those tasks. And that doesn't mean like you can't, rearrange or as things come, make changes, but at least really focus, do your best to commit to yourself in that way. Like that is one of the easiest, most practical ways that you can bring that into helping you build that self-trust, which will help you with your intuition. And then dedication, like really dedicating yourself to what it is that you want to do. I think a lot of times we say we want to do things and then, or we want to study certain things, but then we don't. Like, for example, with my journal, I really wanted to do it, and then I was stopping myself. And then it really took time for me to focus and be like, okay, this is what I want to do. I'm going to sit down for the next hour and I'm really going to commit to this. And so working with that type of energy, dedicating yourself to what it is you want to create or you want to do or you want to explore or you want to like bring more of in your life. Sometimes literally it can just be like, you know what, I really want to just go to, I don't know, coffee shops. I love like cute little coffee shops. So it'd be like, okay, I really want to go once a month at least or whatever it may be. And it's like, that's also like, you know, commitment, but like dedicating yourself to what it is you want to explore more of. I think that's really, really big. Again, you're letting yourself know that you are here for you, and that is going to help you with the self-trust.
Oh, I
And
love that. So I just need to say, I love that you're taking, like, in my mind, the way that you're talking about this, because like commitment and dedication can really like kind of be
mhm,
seen as the same thing. But in my mind, the way that you're talking about it is you've taken this same kind of like action or feeling and you've split it up into like a masculine side and a very like feminine side. And I love that. I absolutely love that. And I love that you're talking about dedication, but to yourself and like trusting into your, again, like what kind of things light you up and like allowing yourself to feel into those and be leading you into more alignment as you are gaining this
mhm.
self-trust. I think that is so beautiful. And it brings such a beautiful balance between the masculine and the feminine. And it's like lighting me up. I have like
I love
goosebumps
that.
listening to you talk. I love it so much.
Oh, yay. Thank you. Thank you. Um, and then another way to really begin building that self-trust, you guys, is through creating boundaries, and speaking up for yourself. I want you guys to like, when I sh- share that, I want you guys to think like about that part of you that needs your support. That's like, imagine if a little kid came up to you and they're like, I really, you know, I need to do this, XYZ. And you would help them build the boundaries, you would help them share what's coming up to help them reach the goals or be able to trust themselves. And so if you guys are struggling with building, creating your boundaries or speaking up for yourself, I would also really encourage you to see how that is related to you trusting yourself. There's a big, big correlation, um, between being able to tell yourself, like, okay, I'm going to be here and I'm going to do this for you, for me. And then making sure that the rest of the world knows, like, okay, this is my boundary. And so I'm doing this for me. And, you know, this is what I feel and this is what I'm thinking. And I'm not okay with this. Or, you know, I need more information about this before I make a decision. And so those two, when you start incorporating more boundaries and speaking up for yourself, oh my gosh, you're going to be able to trust yourself so much more. There's going to be that part of you that is like, I can rely on you. I can rely on myself because you are setting up these boundaries. You are speaking up for what we need or what we're not okay with. And I feel like oftentimes people don't really, they may understand why boundaries are good and why speaking up for yourself is good, but they may not understand how that really impacts your self-trust. And it does. So I highly encourage you guys to, like I said, look into your relationship with boundaries, self-trust, and speaking up for yourself, because it's all like tied together.
Yes. And I love that. I think that also ties into what you were talking about too, with kind of, like taking care of your energy as well. Boundaries
Mhm.
really help us to protect our energy and make sure it's not being like muddled or impacted more by like outside forces as well. I love that. Yeah, setting boundaries is so important in like so many again aspects of life, like just in general for being happy and healthy.
Oh my gosh, yes. And I love that. our society is shifting to really understanding that more. And that we're just shifting so much more into all of this because there's so much goodness that comes from it. And I just feel like we've lived in a world where boundaries or speaking up were seen as such a bad thing, but we've seen how that's affected people on an individual level, on a family level, work level, and all of that. So really, really, really happy that we're living in these times and making these shifts. Okay, so trusting yourself, and then a little bit more on that, like how to continue building self trust is by taking chances. And this is a really, really big one. I know we already mentioned like taking chances, even if the outcome isn't what you wanted, but like that is such a big one, especially because, we are living here and there's so much freedom and creation and experimentation. And I think sometimes people take life either too seriously or also with like spirituality. Oftentimes people just want to focus on all that they want to create or manifest and a lot of that. But it's like, can we just freaking like be an experience and have fun and just we're in this world, like we're gonna be in this specific body in this specific situation that we're living in this one time, like our soul here. And I think there's something so magical and exciting about knowing that and just experiencing and doing things for the hell of them. I just think that's so beautiful. And so if you start seeing it from that lens, like, okay, yeah, I'm gonna do it. Like I got this, and then just do it, like just to do it, not expect any results. That's gonna really, really, really be great for you guys. And it's just gonna, I think, like, bring your spirit up so much. Because I do believe, like, I do believe that our souls are here to grow and learn, but it also like to make the most in so many different ways. It doesn't just have to be in a spiritual way. Like sometimes our soul just wants to have fun. And we get to be able to provide that for ourselves, you know what I mean? So do that. Don't focus too much on the outcomes. And then also the action, we talked on taking action. Like there's literally no better way to get to know and trust yourself than taking action, especially when you're taking action in new settings, new things that you've never done before, because you're putting yourself in these situations. And when you're in a new situation, you get to see how you react. You get to see how you are trusting yourself. Or maybe where you're like, oh, I wasn't so sure about that. Maybe I lacked a little bit of trust here or there. And so that's another really great way, which also just lends itself to like experiencing more of life. um, and then, yeah, so as a reminder, like you guys, we can talk about trusting ourselves all we want, or saying like, yeah, we're going to trust ourselves, or like, Bailey was saying like trusting, but it's not until you really are taking that action that you get to actually show yourself that you do trust yourself. And I want you guys to think of it very much like one of the big things, images that I wanted to share with you is like a trust fall, right? Like imagine if you're standing and then you're telling yourself like, oh yeah, I trust myself, or like I trust the universe, but then you never let yourself fall and you're just like verbally speaking it, but then your actions never show it. Like, are you really trusting yourself? So action, you guys.
Yes, I love that. And this whole like thing talks so much to what I'm going through right now and like my own personal journey and what I've been speaking to on social media like a lot this week too. Is this taking action and the being like courageous, because it doesn't matter like what we do, like there's going to be a level of fear in everything, whether we are like taking these chances and stepping
Yes.
into the unknown and moving forward, or if we are staying where we are. Like I've experienced both of those things and I've experienced the fear on both sides. It just is making that choice. Okay, what fear do I want to experience? The one that is limiting and painful, or
Yeah.
one that's freeing and inspiring and full of opportunities. And like I think it speaks so much to what a lot of people I think are going through right now as far as like my inbox. So many
Mhm.
people are feeling into this pull to taking action, to taking those steps. And I love that. I love that. And it is such a, when you do allow yourself to go out there and take those steps, and just without knowing what's going to happen, it does gain,
Yeah.
like, it connects you so deeper to your own self-trust, but also connects you to the universe, to source, to God, and allows you to then co-create even deeper on like this deeper level. I love that.
Yeah. Yeah. And also like, there's fear even when we're excited about doing things. Like I remember when I first started my podcast, I was so excited, and I still like love it. And I love that. I love, I'm so happy that I started the podcast, but I had all these apprehensions, especially because I know that my written word is so much stronger than me speaking verbally. I notice it all the time. And so one of my big fears was like, dang, am I really just gonna like start something where all I do is speak and like I write nothing? Like, oh my goodness. And I had all these like worries. And even still to this day, sometimes I'll do a podcast and I'm like, oh, okay, I sounded a little weird, but what gets me through it is sharing the message and trusting that I am here to share the messages that I'm sharing. And so it's um so you guys may still experience some level of fear, even if you like it. Like, what Bailey said, we'll experience fear on all different, no matter what path we choose. And so it's just like us choosing to move forward still and choosing, yeah, which pain do you want? Which fear do you want to deal with? Which one, you know? Um, and so talking about like the universe and all of that, another way to build that trust is also, so of course you need your own self-trust, but I also find that trusting in your connection to the universe, to God, is so, so big, because you really begin to understand that you're not in your own bubble. I know that there are people out there who struggle with um, building their intuition because they believe that, like, okay, maybe it's just me, and what if there's nothing else in this world, and like if I die then that's it, type of thing. And there's like this real like disconnect and sometimes sadness that comes from that. Um, but once you really start to understand that it's not just you in your own bubble and that there is more out there, that deepens this sense of like trust in like a really beautiful way that I don't even really know how to explain. But like you come to understand that you come from that same energy, and it's that same energy that wants to speak to you. So you begin to trust, like, okay, and that's how you begin to trust your intuition. You're able to understand that, yeah, you know what, the same energy that you come from is the same energy that is sharing these nudges and this intuition and everything. And so there, remember, like earlier I said, like, well, it's all just like a big bubble of like everything like connected. And I really do see it that way. Like you're basically speaking to yourself in another form. And the more you understand that, the more you're able to really trust that you trust in those messages that you receive. You don't You're able to acknowledge that that energy is like already there, and all you need to do is connect. And that's a big thing also for anyone who is looking into like psychic development or trusting yourself more. I literally, one of the biggest things that helped me was knowing that like the energy is already out there. I'm just connecting to that and letting that flow and come through me. And all the information is already out there. And so that makes it easier when you are receiving these intuitive messages. Like, that this is the energy, like, it's not like you're just making it up. I think a lot of times people struggle, like, well, what if it is just me making it up? And, but the more you start to realize that there's more to the world and the universe and the energy, the more you realize, like, no, you're not just like making things up. Like, you don't have to concern yourself that it's all just you in your own head. You're able to trust that there is more. So, and that's really big, because you start to realize that you don't need some other person to tell you like what you should be doing or not. You have the answers to your questions. Which is kind of funny. I know I do psychic readings, but I've also shared this so many times. Like, yes, I do readings, but at the same time, I firmly believe that a lot of people already have their own answers. And I would never want anyone to like depend on me for things. And I mean, I'm more than happy to do readings, but it's also like, I know that you guys have the answers. And I know that like oftentimes your intuition is already saying like, no, don't do that thing. Or like, yes, let's do this thing. And so practicing listening to that is going to be really, really big. And then my other tip also is to create time for you to focus in on that energy and move away from like maybe if you feel too logical or you always go, go, go. Like literally, we are always going, 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 doing, 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 or we're always seeing like there's so many ads, right? That we're always being shown. And like, especially with social media,
Yes. Oh
right?
my God. Yes. There is like, no, we have to really go out of our way nowadays to create space, to create that space that we need to allow for information to come in, because we are surrounded and constantly consuming information that is just like fucking bullshit that doesn't do anything for us, like at
Yeah.
all. Just mindless consuming of information. Yes, it is so it's hard. I mean, it's something
Yeah.
I've been working on actually. I'm working with these quantum codes, and one of them is taking the time to create space so that you can receive. And when you actually start like feeling into that and like asking yourself, okay, where do I need to create space? And you realize how much random shit like it's taking up space in your mind, in your house, in your
Yeah.
energy field, in your body. Like it's insane. It is
Mm-hmm.
wild to see like in our day, like society right now, like how much consumption of mindless stuff is going on that keeps us so disconnected from like the
Yeah.
world, actually the world around us and
Yeah.
the world inside of us.
And like that mental thing is also like so real. Oftentimes I have to literally just journal, brain dump, let everything out before I even feel like, okay, now I feel sane and now I feel like I can actually meditate. So because sometimes like I know one of the big things that helps me meditate is like um especially like if you guys are ever struggling, you're trying to do meditation and then your thoughts are just like going, 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 and you want it to be a little bit quieter, just write it all down. And you'll notice that that makes such a big difference. You're no longer holding it in. Also, I notice that like it helps me if I keep paper nearby and a pen because sometimes I'll start something and then I'm like, oh, I can't forget to do this. And then my brain is like, don't forget to do this. And so then I get stuck on that, but then that doesn't let me enjoy. So if you guys have like pen and paper nearby, you can just like write down quickly, like
Yes,
whatever it
stream of
is.
consciousness journaling is like one of my go-tos. I've
Oh
been
my
using
gosh.
that to like manage my anxiety and stuff, which when you have like anxiety, it is like constant like brain chatter that's also keeping you out of the present moment. So
Mhm.
having that like that dedication to this like brain dumping and like knowing that you can get it all out and then like walk away and like it's there, it's in my journal, I've dealt with it, I can walk away, I do not need to focus on this anymore. I love that too. It is a practice that I use often. And yeah, like before meditation, I always like in my routine, it's always journal, then meditation, and then lots of times I'll journal again based off like what may have come up in my meditation so I don't forget it. But yeah, I
Yeah.
always have to journal before meditation or else I just can't. It's so hard for me to shut off my brain because I've
Yeah.
spent it's a big part of my like nighttime routine. So I'm like coming into
Mm,
the nighttime and I've just like my brain is filled with everything I've consumed, all the
yeah.
like random information and kids and just every little thing that's happened. And yeah, so journaling before is a great, amazing tip for people for sure.
I love that we're both similar in that way. And I love that we both love journaling. Like, oh my gosh. I
Yeah.
honestly don't know how my life would be like. My life would have been so different without journaling. I don't think I would be the same person. Like you
Oh
can
yeah.
literally feel the energetic shift, the energetic release, and it's just so good.
And there's like so many different ways you can go
Yes.
about journaling too. Like I feel like people just don't understand. And I talk about journaling all the time because it was really where I started. Like you said, like I don't think I'd be where I am now if I didn't start journaling first, because it's what opened the door up for me to enter this whole world that I'm in now, was the journaling. And yeah, it is so powerful. Like, it's not just writing like your thoughts, or like, just, it's not just freaking gratitude and affirmations. Like it can be so much more. I use journaling actually a lot to connect with my guides and my
Mhm.
intuition, with automatic writing. That's like one of
Mhm.
my favorite ways to
Yeah.
kind of tune into them and get answers and everything.
Yeah.
So it has so many, and it can also be like, it's not just writing on paper if that's not something you like to do. Journaling can be anything. It can be videos, like if you want to take videos and talk to yourself.
Mhm.
It can be like voice notes. It can be art, doodling, whatever, just as
Yeah.
long as you are getting emotions or ideas or thoughts or whatever it is that's plaguing you out onto, like, out there into,
Yeah.
like, onto paper or into your phone, whatever it is. I love journaling.
It's so funny that, like, I'm glad we're talking about that, because I remember I saw in a group that I'm in, someone was really apprehensive about journaling because they were like, well, isn't that just affirming the negative stuff that you don't want? And I think so many people have that misconception. And like you said, journaling can take on so many forms, and it can start like with, okay, what you're dealing with, what you're going through, like the struggles. But not only is there that energetic, like, shift and the healing that happens, like you said, so many answers come through, whether you, like, have an aha moment or whether you are receiving the message from your guide. Like, the amount of times I've journaled and, like, suddenly midway through, it's, like, no longer me talking. It's literally the POV shifts, the perspective, point of view shift, and it's, like, my guides, and it ends up with, like, "Oh my gosh, we love you so much," and it's just so natural. But I don't think people understand that it's not just you guys reaffirming the negative. It's literally changing, receiving guidance. And you may not always receive guidance, but sometimes it's just, like, feels so good to let it out. Like,
Yes.
journaling can change so much. Like, oh my gosh, I love
Yeah.
journaling.
Something that I teach, like, because it's always like the first thing that I dive into with mentoring programs or anything, like when I'm working with clients, is journaling. That's like always the first module, because it's such an easy way to get into a routine of that, like, healthier habits, right? It's very easy to just, we always start off with a stream of conscious journaling, where you literally just write out every morning when you wake up the first thought that pops into your mind. That's all. That's
Mhm.
where we start. But a lot of my clients get so caught up in this idea that they have to, like, keep going back. They have to keep going back to the journal and the things that they wrote. And if it is negative, they get, like, caught up in that. So you have to practice, like, when you are journaling for healing, especially stream of consciousness journaling, you have to, like, understand that you there has to be disconnect between what you're journaling about and, like, leaving it there. And one thing that I always tell people to do is that if you feel like your journal is getting really negative, or it, like, is giving off negative energy, cleanse it. Cleanse your journal.
Mhm.
I do it all the time with a little smoke cleanse. Oh my God. Or put a crystal on it. Whatever it is that you want to, like, that you connect with cleansing. Cleanse your
Or talk
journal.
to
You
it,
can
like,
cleanse your journal.
yeah, or talk to things. You guys, like, oh my gosh, I love talking. Like, literally, I talk to my journals. I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm so happy that you're here. Like, thank you so much. Like, I love you. Or one thing that I really want to start doing more of is, like, talking to my home, like my apartment, and, like, appreciating it. And it's like, you guys will be amazed to see how even just, uh, I mean, just talk to anything and everything. Like, I don't know. I love it. But, like, yes, cleansing it, all of that is really good. Um, Also, one thing with journaling is, like, that actually helps with the whole self-trust stuff that we've been talking about, is sometimes you will be able to come to, actionable steps you need to take. I remember this one specific thing that was really big a couple years ago, and it had been, like, bothering me, and I really needed to, like, let it out. So, of course, journaling, there I am, and at the end I was like, wow, I think I need to do XYZ. And so I did it like the next day and it was like really tough and everything, but it it was like a beautiful way for me to be able to receive and gain clarity. Again, oftentimes we already like know it, but we may be stopping ourselves. And so when you write it, you gain more clarity as to not only what you want, but what you need to do. So I feel like we could talk about journaling and like make that a whole other
Yeah, a whole
episode.
other episode just for journaling, but I would totally be game for that. But yeah,
Yes.
I totally know where you're going with this. And it's something that I experience a lot because I am very much in my mind. And when I take the time to journal, that's when like things come through, especially like being able to get that clarity of, okay,
Mhm.
this is where you're at. This is what's like kind of holding you back or stopping you. And this is what you need to do to like kind of get around that and makes continue to move forward. And a lot of the time that comes through during
Yeah.
my journaling because I can just get out of my head a little bit more because I'm getting things onto paper. I'm like literally like I always have this image where I'm like taking it out and putting it there,
Yes.
like get out of there. Okay, now I'm creating
Yes.
space.
Yeah, I feel that. My image is more like kind of like a waterfall or like something that just goes through you. And so you're like, okay, cool. Like that's good. But yeah, like our minds are so busy. And like we were mentioning earlier with the all these ads or all these videos and someone I was watching this one video and I thought it was interesting. But they were really saying like, okay, you know how a lot of reels or TikTok videos, super short, super quick, it's easy for us to like scroll through, but also it's making it more difficult for people to actually like sit down, concentrate, sit for longer periods of time, watch like a
Yes,
video for so
we're becoming unable to focus on anything like longer than these
Mhm.
like little tiny clips. So when you go to actually like learn something, whether you're in like whether it's in video form or in a classroom setting or something like that, like your brain shuts off when things don't change like quickly
Yep.
after like a certain amount of time. It's insane what we
It's
are
so
doing to
crazy.
ourselves. It's absolutely crazy. And
It's
the
so
more that
crazy.
you like do this work, that you begin to like, I think, and gain this like clarity and connect with your intuition and everything, the more your eyes open to how like, oh my God, like everything is. At least that's what's like been happening for me more and more. I just wished I lived like in the middle of nowhere away from it all, where I could just like connect with nature and the people around me and not be like have all this other stuff totally like distracting me all the time.
So much distraction out there. And I do believe like some distraction is just like unnecessary. I mean, I don't of course entertainment, like, you know, you guys we can enjoy entertainment and all of that, but there's also distraction that breeds so much or like information that breeds so much fear. And then that can also affect what's going on in your own energy. And so just being aware of all of that and knowing that yeah, you guys, we are being hit all the time, from all levels, and it doesn't always have to be like something bad, you know, like especially for those of you who are parents, like you have children to raise, you have those responsibilities, taking care of others. If you have pets, if you look after parents, like there's all of this, and then if you go to work, then you know if you guys have school, like some people have so much going on in their lives, and then the way they wanna chill for a bit is like, "Oh, let me just watch some TV show, or let me just scroll social media for a while," and so you're not giving yourself the space that you need for your energy to just be, first of all, your energy to just be without anything, and then
Yes. It's like sort of being proven that when when we decide to take that time to rest, and that looks like scrolling our phone and being on Facebook and all these things, it's actually not doing anything for our nervous system. It's not restful
yeah,
at all. And it actually, a lot of times, like you said, it causes this fear and it's causing us more stress, whether it's fear of what's going on in the world or whether it's you are comparing yourself to others because social media is so much like a filtered
mhm,
view of
yeah,
like everyone else, so that or it's that like fear of yourself and it disconnects you again from that self-trust aspect. Yeah,
mhm,
it's Yeah, so it's not very good. And there is science coming out. And I love that is kind of supporting that, this is what you're doing to yourself when you
Yeah,
sit here, but it's hard. It's
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 hard.
hard when you've been in like that habit because you didn't really realize what you were doing. And then you realize,
Mhm.
okay, well, shit, like I'm addicted. Addicted to my phone, man. How do I've been really paying attention to it and I actually am addicted. I catch myself. I will be walking from my bedroom to go downstairs and get laundry. And the first thing I do as I start walking, like I can't even
Yeah.
walk without looking at my phone, whether it's just like doing a quick glance through Facebook or Instagram as I'm about to go down the stairs. Like,
Yep.
but it's crazy. It's
It's so
crazy how
crazy.
much I realize just without thinking I do, and I can't do like just alone. It's wild.
And so with that, like, I know we mentioned earlier, like concentrating because I know that I've been like, I am taking like a class or a course or something. And as they're talking, I'm literally like playing a game on my phone and I'm like, okay, like I'm listening, but I'm all like, I don't need to take notes on that. Let me like play whatever, my little cat game. So it's just like, um, it just shows how deeply ingrained it's, oh my gosh, especially like you I can only think of, like, the younger generations. I think we're pretty close in age, and, like, I know that we, there's, growing up, we didn't have all the technology, so we still, like up until I think yeah, even my high school years, I feel like a lot of people still didn't even have their own phones and all of that kinda stuff, so we were able to
Yeah, and
grow
if you
up.
did, it was just like one of the slide ones or a flip phone. Like you couldn't use the internet on it. Like you
Yeah.
still had to use like a computer to get on the internet, and you weren't like carrying that in your back pocket.
Right. Yeah, we couldn't, they weren't that small yet. Um, but so all of that, and so we grew up like that way, thankfully, but like a lot of people who are younger, who it's grown so much in the last couple of years, and it's literally their go-to, like, "Oh, I'm waiting for something. Oh, I'm just gonna play a game." I noticed it with my little brother, and something that I really, really love and appreciate is like when if I'm having dinner, whether it's with my friends or family, I want us all to be focused in the moment. And I really don't like when people have like their phones out or they're doing things because I just really feel like it's one of the few times we're all there together. And I don't know, just to me, like having a meal together feels very beautiful and sacred in its own way. And so, um, but I know my sister, oh my gosh, on her phone all the time. And my little brother, like when I was still living with them, I would tell him like, "Okay, put it away." And I remember one time he was like, "Well, she's not doing it, so why do I have to do it?" And my sister was at an age where she was like very like rebellious and she would just not do it. And but I wanted my brother to like, and also I think it's good manners, so I wanted him to like not do it. But yeah, and so now when I go visit them and my sister visits them too, like she's still like on her phone. My brother will like also be there. But it's gotten to the point where like, first of all, I'm not the parent. I can't really, have them do things. And my parents don't say anything. So it's like, okay. But I just see it and them like they can't even sit down for a meal without having to be on their phone.
Yes. It's like they think they're so connected because they can talk to whoever they want in the world, but they are so when you sit there and you're like looking at the screen, you're so disconnected from the actual connections that are
Yeah.
right there in front of you. It's so true.
And
It's so true.
that's one thing also that I really am trying to work on because I struggled a lot, like I mentioned earlier, especially in high school. Like I just felt so alone and I was like that weird, awkward girl. And really stayed with me a lot. And I feel like I was for the longest time, I would always like want to be, I don't know, I feel like I'm getting teary-eyed just like thinking about it. But like I would just want more connections. And I realized in the last like more recently than not that I really want to cultivate the connections that I already have. Like, why is it that in my brain I'm thinking like, oh, I want, maybe I'll connect with this person and this person too. But then I'm watering down connections I already have, or maybe disregarding them just because I want to expand the number of connections. But I really want like the quality of the connections. And it kind of goes to like what you were saying, right? Like we may feel so connected with like all these other people online, but the people that are actually there in our lives, like, do we really have that quality of connection with them that we would like, or that are
Yeah,
like
like when was the last time like you were in a setting like with actual people in a social setting and everyone made eye contact with each other when they spoke? Like that's the thing that gets me. Like you're talking to someone and like they don't even look at you. You know what I mean? Because they're looking at the phone while they're having a conversation. Like we don't even make eye contact with each other anymore.
right. Yeah. Yeah. And that was a big thing for me too, because I have noticed I'll do that sometimes with some people, like even if I am just having a conversation, like I'll pull it up, but um I'm trying to really also just be like, okay, and I know the conversation isn't gonna last too long anyways. So it like I can pause whatever I'm doing, which is again probably just my cat game or whatever, and just like be focused, like attentively listening to a person. Also, I think I don't know, but like for me, I always really struggled where I would find it easier to disregard family that was closer to me and give more attention to other people that I barely knew or be closer with. And that was like a big aha when I started to realize that, like, why? And why is it easier to like mistreat or get more upset with the people that have been there for me the longest, who have loved me the hardest, the ones who are here for me and that I love? And one of the simple things is just like, okay, if he's talking, then let me just put my phone for a little bit. Even though my finger it wants to like, you know, do the thing. But yeah, so with all that being said, we can see how our attention, our minds are like we're always going, going, going. And so really sitting and finding quiet time almost feels like an act of rebellion to you know when it comes to all of this. And it's giving yourself that time that you need, even if even put away like just the whole intuition thing, even if intuition wasn't the main focus, just being there for yourself with yourself is something that is so beautiful, and you get to be really present with yourself in that moment. So I think for sure, if you guys already don't have some sort of practice where you're able to quiet your mind and be in a quieter energy, start that. And then you'll notice that as you do that, you'll be more receptive to what does come through. It'll be easier for you guys to hear it, not so easy to dismiss it or doubt it or be like, okay, yeah, but like, no, you know what I mean? So it's really big, again, especially because of the type of like world that we're living in now. Um, and then just a couple of ways that you can make space. So, you know, there's like the traditional meditating where you sit down, close your eyes, and I love that. Like that is my go-to. I really resonate with that. I It's just like really powerful for me, but I know not everyone feels the same way. And I think that's why a lot of people have apprehension around like quiet time. Like they don't like that concept. They feel it doesn't work for them. They dread it or whatever it might be. So some other ways is literally walking in nature. It's so beautiful to just connect and feel connected to the world in that way. Oh my gosh, when I'm walking
Yeah,
in nature
you
and
have to like make sure that when you're doing that, you're not, it's, if you're just getting into like connecting and being like engaging in this stillness and this being in the present and everything, when you're doing like walks and stuff, it's very important to one, be aware that if you are listening to a podcast or you're listening to music, you aren't always like able to connect as well. So I
yes.
actually recommend people that begin are trying to like wanting to start this as a routine that you do it without distraction.
Yeah.
Don't take your dog, just you, like literally just you,
Mhm.
yourself, no extra, and allow your senses to take over.
Yeah.
So pay very close attention to the things that you are smelling, seeing, hearing, feeling as you are like walking. And that's a really great way, like outside of meditating, to really begin to get into that present moment, to get into your body and feeling into that, and to gain a more comfortable experience with being just by yourself, right?
Mhm.
Getting more ease. Because I know so many people think that, oh, I'll just go for a walk. And it's not just like a simple walk. And then they're still anxious because they spent
Yeah.
that whole walk focused and trying to find all the answers, predict the future, going over all the past things they've done in their lives
Right.
and why their life sucks so much. So you really have to set that intention to be mindful when you go on
Mhm.
these walks. And eventually, as you continue to do it, you can include those things back in, like your dog or your music or your podcast, whatever it is you want to also do, because you're more prone to being comfortable just being within you. So you're not going to use those things as a distraction to stop you from being in that present moment.
Yeah, those are really, really good points. It's so easy to take for granted what I know for me when I think of like walk, I know that like first of all, I don't have a dog and I just like go for my little walk, so it's easy to really um take for granted like what a walk is. But yeah, a lot of people, especially again, it's now that cell phones are everywhere or whatever it may be, a walk isn't just a walk like people had 100 years ago. Like, no, you literally can be getting calls from work, calls from your family, messages, pings on social media, whatever it may be. And so creating that, setting that intention, and then really letting yourself be there is a really beautiful way. And also, it's a beautiful way to just feel more connected to the world. I am such in awe of our world. I thankfully live in a really cute place that has like hills. And so when we're driving, I can see like the cute little hills range. And something about that just humbles me so much. It makes me feel so connected. And again, like the connection to more can help you with your intuition as well. It's just it's just so beautiful that we're able, it's so beautiful that we get to live in this world. And I think it's so sad when a lot of people think like, oh, and I know I was this way too, like oftentimes when people first start their journey, they think like, oh, this world is shitty, this world is so lame, like I'd rather be from another world, or what other type of thing. Especially when you think like, oh my gosh, all these like killers and like so many evil people out here. But like our world, the planet is so beautiful, and the energy that like comes from it is just like I don't know how people can hate such a beautiful energy. You know what I mean? Like I don't know.
No, I
Just like the
totally, I
connection.
totally, no, I totally understand. And with my experience because I do love walking and just being in nature now, I find that I can tap into that mindfulness, that stillness, just being outside so much easier. And it's amazing how, when you allow yourself to do that, how like brighter everything looks, how the colors are just how much more you can see, and just also how much we can learn from nature. Like we forget so much that we are one with it all, and that you can learn so much grace and compassion for your life and for this world by connecting with nature. It's one of my favorites
Yeah.
ways to engage in stillness, and it's amazing. It's a beautiful teacher, and it's filled with such beautiful energy. And when you allow yourself to really start to see it for what it is, it just opens you up. Like, I can't go for a walk now without having to stop and like look at the flowers and watching the little bees and like collecting their little like pollen and the
Yeah.
way the drops of water are on leaves. Like it's amazing when you allow yourself to really start to see the world around you and in all its beauty. I totally understand that
Yeah.
deep connection that you feel.
So much beauty. Like and everything. And like we take for granted even simple things, but like just the way that nature is and the way the animals do their thing and like they all do their thing so uniquely, like that is magical in its own way. And
And that's a great lesson for us. Like, we are made to be just as unique as birds and flowers and everything else. Like, we're not made to all be the same. And it is, yeah.
really beautiful. um so yeah, that's like another really, really, really beautiful way to connect with yourself and your intuition. And then some people like are really big into art. and that's like their zone, and they're able to clear their mind when they are engaging in some form of art. I really struggle. I'm not like creative in that way. So when I try to be artistic, my brain is like, ah,
Yeah,
but
I feel you.
but I try sometimes. I bought like a Crayola box of like markers and crayons and like, simple things. But yeah, like for those of you who do resonate with that and that's easier for you, and if that helps you clear your mind and create that quiet space, start there and let that be like your own moment of peace. And a lot of people do get like those creative hits or like those intuitive hits when they are like being artistic and like their answers come to them. So there's so many ways. It doesn't have to be like a traditional way. Like you can walk, you can like create art, or like we've talked, we spent like a good portion of this podcast like journaling, like
Journaling.
so big. Um, so there's so many ways you guys can begin to create that quiet space to let the intuition come through you and you open yourself up, being more receptive to all the information that does want to come through you, by the way. Like it's not like some people are chosen to be more intuitive than others. Like we are all connected, and it's
Mhm.
just like, okay, how like how blocked are you? Like, why are you making space? Can like you let me in, like, or trying to come through, but like, you know what I mean? So all you really need, like, it literally wants to come through you. It is coming through you. You just need to clear up the space, let it be, and trust it. I think in
Yeah.
essence, like that's the big recap.
Yep. Just allow it. But yeah, I think it is always important to point out that every single one of us has connection to intuition. And
Mhm.
it just is, like you said, whether or not we are open to receive that and how blocked we are, right? I think that's beautiful to point out because it isn't something like no one's more special than another, and it is going to be unique for every single person, the way that you receive the information and how you then express it and everything. So just knowing that you
Mhm.
do, no matter where you are in life, who you have connection to this. It's natural. It's a part of nature just like you are, and it's beautiful. It just is allowing yourself to open up to receiving that information, and in turn you're receiving like beautiful, kind of like divinely guided support and
Yeah.
everything, so that you can make more aligned choices throughout your life.
And also, um, I feel like a lot of times when people are in their spiritual journey, they feel like their purpose or their outcome has to be in like spiritual stuff, like teaching spirituality or developing certain gifts or whatever. And I think oftentimes when people hear intuition, they think it's like it has to be like spiritually related
Mhm.
in some form. But there are so many amazing people out there fighting for human rights, fighting for like climate change, protecting animals, protecting people. So, like there's all of that. And so you can be so intuitive and receive guidance to help you in whatever field you're in. It
Yeah.
doesn't have to stay in like,
Also,
oh,
yeah. I also think you can have your intuition and use it for you. Like, I don't think you even need
mhm,
to necessarily like create
yeah,
a business or be of service to other people with your
right.
intuition. Like, just by connecting to it yourself and allowing it to guide you, you are creating a ripple effect for everyone else. And sometimes I think
Mm.
that is good enough for
Oh
humanity. Like,
yeah.
you don't need to be going out of your way to using your intuition to monetize, like in a
Mhm.
monetary kind of sense.
Right. Yeah, that's a really, really good point as well. Um, there is definitely like this thought, like, oh, maybe like, we should, but to add more to that, we have, and like the reason that that is such a good point that you brought up is because energy is our first language and intuition is like the natural part of us. All we're doing is reconnecting. It doesn't mean we have to like
Mhm.
make a whole business, make money out of it, or be focused in one specific area. We're literally just reconnecting to that first language, to that guidance system that
Mhm.
is natural. And we have to like remember that and know that, like, okay, if all I want to do it is use it for me, like that's totally fine.
Yeah, I think a
Um,
lot of us that do, when you do begin to connect with it, though, you realize like how impactful it is and the guidances that you get, that you do end up kind of, whether it is something that you make money off or you're just sharing with like your gifts or whatever with other people, you just realize how much of an impact you can have on the world, because you tap into that like oneness, that energy that is connected to everyone when you are connecting into your intuition. But knowing that you don't have, there's nothing that says, okay, now that you're connected to your intuition, you have to go and be of service to like a ton of other people. If you're someone who is very introverted, that could be so scary and definitely a block from you tapping into yours. So knowing that you can use it just to kind of help you make better, more aligned decisions is also, that's good enough. That's all you need to
save
do.
yourself from
Because it does, it
trouble.
connects you, like you said, it connects you back into who you truly are at that like soul level, right?
Yeah. I remember like even just like, so bringing that down to like just everyday life, how you don't have to like go and do so many other things. It is whether, trusting your intuition when you're going to hire a babysitter, or trusting your intuition, knowing like which, even just which food my body wants today. Like that is so big. And that really helped me, because oftentimes like I knew what my body wanted, but my like taste buds are like, but I want, I want this. But just like trusting that and acting on that. And then also like taking on job opportunities. I remember a couple years ago, I went on a couple of job interviews. There's one in specific that comes to mind. And I think people, when they're thinking of getting jobs, so many times it's like, I need a job, I need a job. And they're focused on that and they like want it and they'll stick with it. But we also have to remember we're trying to find like a good fit for ourselves. But I remember like I was at this job interview, and um so the interview, after that, they were like, okay, we're gonna send you a couple of like assessments. So you know, return that to us. And as I was doing that, I had to like sit down and be honest, reflect on like how I was feeling in the work environment with the people, and then what was all being shown to me in like this assessment. And I realized I don't want this. I don't even want to finish the interview process. Like I know that I would not be happy here. Like there's something in me that was just like, nope, not for you. So I emailed them back, didn't even complete the assessment. And I was just like, thank you for the opportunity, but I don't think this is not the right fit for me. And it's like things like that too, like your intuition can help you with just like listening to that, and then being able to make your choices from that space. It can impact your life in so many levels. So
I just, before we hop off, I'm just checking the live stream, and we actually have a question from the live stream on YouTube. So someone did want to know if your intuition has ever betrayed you.
it's a really good question. And honestly, my answer to that is going to be no, because your intuition comes from a place to guide you. And I think we may see an outcome as betrayal from our ego point of view, from our human self, but I don't think the choice, the inspiration, the guidance that came through is betrayal. That's why one of the things that I want to mention is like not being tied to your action, to the outcome. Because if you're thinking like, oh my gosh, I got this like intuitive download and I'm gonna do this, then you do the thing and it does it, and the result isn't like what you wanted, you may feel like, okay, well, that was like a betrayal. But was it really a betrayal, or is it just you expecting a certain thing,
Mhm.
not getting it, and then feeling perhaps
Yeah.
betrayed,
I
you
think
know?
it's less your intuition betraying you and more so your mind is going to be the one that betrays you, because you're trying to create patterns with and being analytical about it and not allowing just whatever to happen. Right. So I love that. I love how you answered that for sure. And
And
I
then
also
one
love that
more,
we got a question. That's
I love
awesome.
it
That's my first
too.
question on the live stream. So thank you, thank you, thank you
Wait, can I
to
add one more thing to that though?
most definitely.
um Also, we have to be able to differentiate between our intuition and our ego, or these thoughts and fears that come up. a lot of times people struggle between the two. And you may be thinking like, oh, that's my intuition, but really it's like your ego, there's fear, or there's like something else there. So then you decide to go that path or take the action from that space. And that outcome may not be the outcome that you wanted, or it can lead you towards something that you're like, oh my gosh, why did I even do this? It's my intuition like betrayed me. But it literally could have been like your ego, and your intuition could have been saying something else, but because you are at the point where you can't tell the difference, you attribute it to your intuition.
Yes, you have a podcast episode all about that, right? Being able to
Ooh.
distinguish the difference between ego and your intuition. And I think actually that's a really good one. I'm also going to link that specific episode to the description box because it's a really great episode. And it's very important, especially people who are coming into this through healing, like you're wanting to intuitively develop in order to make more aligned decisions, and you're someone who's like coming through healing or recovery, like when you there's this anxiety that you have to like kind of learn how to work with, and that very much is like an egoic thing. It's on that ego frequency, that anxiety, and it is very much connected to our like nervous system and being dysregulated and everything. So being able to distinguish between like how to determine when it's one versus the other is so important. And so I'm so happy you brought that up because I do love that episode.
Thank you. I have to say, I am really proud of that episode. I feel like just, I don't know, I loved it. So I really, really hope, and I know I've like other people have found it helpful. And that's why
Yeah,
I'm
it's
excited
something
about
that within my journey, like I wish people talked on more. And like even sometimes going as far as like when it's trauma versus your intuition,
it.
because it can be hard again to like distinguish between trauma and these really
Mhm.
hard beaten into us patterns and fears versus like it being an actual intuitive download or nudge or guidance. So it was something that I wished I had access to when I started my journey. So I think it's a great episode, and it's something
Thank
that
you.
I see people talking a bit more, but it was not something people were talking about when I started. They didn't talk about how sometimes if you are coming through like more traumatic experiences, or you're pulling yourself out of really deep dark places, that it can be hard to be able to understand what is coming through and where it's coming through from. So
Yes.
it's super
Mhm.
impactful information in that episode for sure.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, so thank you so much for joining me today. I love that you were game to do it live too and everything. Thank you so much. I love that I love YouTube, and I'm actually like thinking about totally just moving over to YouTube because you can gain so much more um from creating like in less work than Instagram. Like Instagram, you have to post, or we're told that we have to post every day and you have to be engaging and doing this and this and this. Whereas with YouTube, you can do one video a week, and that video can get views and continue to get
Yeah.
traction for years and years and years. And people are going to be opting in for years and years and
Mhm.
years. And it's way like it's kind of harder to gain traction, or takes longer to gain traction and everything. But if you have that patience, it actually is way less work than what Instagram is. And I really am looking to not be on my fucking phone so much. So YouTube
Yeah.
used to be like that direction, and you don't have to worry about trends. You can really like
Yeah.
just do whatever you want to do, like I'm doing here. And I love it. I love it. I'm feeling so into this space, and I'm so happy that I got to like hold you in this space and that you
Thank
came on
you.
here and got
Yeah.
to share your knowledge. I love chatting with you. I love your podcast. I love that you have been on my podcast twice now, and it's been an honor once again to have you in this space.
First of all, thank you so much for having me on. I really, really appreciate it. And I love connecting with you as well and having these chats and being able to share all of this information. I think it's so so great, and it's so fun, and I'm so happy that you are so happy with YouTube, because that's how I feel with my podcast, that I can just talk about what wants to be shared through me. And
Yes.
it's
Without
like,
having to like worry how to fit that into a trend so that other people are going to see, like, it just doesn't matter. Like you have none. It's a, it's like almost like with Instagram, it's been so drilled into my brain over the course of a few years and having being in this social selling space that, you have to create for views. Like you're creating constantly for someone else. Whereas with like the podcast or YouTube, you're just, you're just doing it. You're
yeah.
creating from you and for, it's almost like for me. Like, yeah,
Yeah.
do I want people to watch and listen? Fuck yes. But at the end of the day, I'm creating content that I care about, that I want to create, not having to worry about how to fit it into someone else's like little 7-second video so that other people can see it, and worrying about, okay, but are people actually going to like this? Are they going to care? Like, who fucking cares?
And I think for me, I have like, I'm I'm a projector, first of all, so I don't have
Yes, I know. I was gonna say you've been talking. It's so funny. Like I'm sitting here, I'm like, you're a projector. So like just through and through, as you have been talking today, it is so evident. You are one of the people that is here to bring us into a new age. And I love that. And I'm here for it. And some of the things that you were speaking on are just so beautiful about like, how to live and how society is shifting and ways that it can shift. And that really came through. Your projector likeness
Oh, thank
came
you. Yeah.
through today. And I love
I
seeing that.
appreciate that. And but with that being said, it also like my energy. I don't have like the biggest go energy. And I see like
Mhm.
some people thrive so well, like always showing up on like their social media and like things like that. And for me, I'm like, I need to batch a couple things and then I need to like chill, or like, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, but that's why I love the podcast, because I'm I'm able to really, and why I want to show up more consistently on my podcast too is the messages. Like, I'm so excited to really share information and have a space where people who are wanting to learn so much more come here. And I realize, like, you know what, even if I had, like, whenever I think about like, okay, what excites me, what really makes me happy, and I realize like if I had all the money in the world, I would still always come back to this, because, and that's like where I realized I needed to pay attention to my intuition again, because I've been on my spiritual journey for like over 10 years, and it was always like me. I would always be researching things, reading blog posts, like before there were communities and like all of like it
Mhm.
really blew up. There was like these like blogs, or like like the big psychics at the time, like James Zampra, and I would be like, oh, you know what, like googling, like literally reading like these blogs and all this kind of stuff. And that's how I started. Like that's how I really like grew and learned from that. And so I, because of that, and it was always like my go-to after work, after school, whatever it was, like my energy would just always go to that. And I remember there was a point where I was like, do I really want to, like, is this really what I want to do, or do I want to do more other things? And I really was like, no, even if I had all the money, I would still be like, okay, let's talk about this. Like, let's talk about this. Like, there's so much goodness here. So I yeah, thank you for the space, for being able to have this conversation. And I really hope that people like resonate, or that this helps them, and that they're able to, like, I hope you guys are able to implement and take some tips and implement and see how that impacts your connection to your intuition. And yeah, any like ahas would be amazing to hear from you guys as well.
Yeah, definitely share. Always. This is one of the things that I do love about social media is being able to connect with people like Karla and a lot of other amazing people. Cause like she sort of mentioned, in this chat today, it can be very isolating almost when you first start diving into this. So allowing yourself to find and connect with people who are like-minded and on the same path and everything can be super helpful. So support and everything like that. So definitely share, because I know if I can't answer a question or whatever, I can always just reach out to Karla and she can definitely answer. And I will also link all of her information, her social media stuff. She has a beautiful, like I said, podcast, Instagram, and I'm pretty sure you have a free community still on Facebook and everything
I
too,
do.
right? That people can jump in if you're really looking to dive into intuitive development even deeper. I'll make sure to share all those so you can connect with her on your own. And like I said, thank you again. Um, just
You.
so everyone does know, our power is out tomorrow, so I will not be uploading until Monday on Anchor, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts. So you're gonna have to wait till Monday to get the episode. So you should have watched us live. Anyway,